here's exactly what I was thinking. I'm going out there with, my mindset was like this. I'm going to go out and set up an entry control point for a downed aircraft, a crashed. We're going to go ahead and tag classified material and body parts. That's what I'm thinking. And then we're going to set up the entry control point so we can get emergency response vehicles out there. When I got up to the area where I seen it wasn't an aircraft crash, and it was something that I couldn't identify, I was perplexed, not understanding what I was seeing. I hadn't been trained for anything even close to that, you know. So here's the gear adjustments were switching, were just crazy. I went from crash and recovery thoughts to I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't know what is in front of me. I'm confused, and this is not a comfortable situation for a security supervisor. You're confused. You're not sure what you're doing. Not sure what to do, and that's the feeling I was getting. Of course, I am talking back and forth with my teammates, and we're coming back with the same type of confusion. We're not sure what's going on in front of us. The craft was a triangular craft. It was black in color, very shiny. It was metal, but it was smooth as glass. Inside the fabric of this triangular craft, there was light movement of red and blue running through the fabric of it. I had pasted off, and it measured 9 feet by 9 feet by 9 feet. It was approximately, based on my height, I'm 6'2", so I estimated it at 7 feet tall. It was very small for aircraft. It had one of the things that I was looking at initially was I was looking for obvious things that aircraft have, looking for landing gear, looking for intake, looking for exhaust, looking for crew compartment, looking for windows. It was void of all those. That's where the confusion comes in at. I came back around to the right side of it. When I seen those glyphs, I seen that there's some writing up there. So I felt pretty comfortable at that moment, because I said, okay, it's going to say United States Air Force, prototype, something like that. It's going to say NASA on it. And then, of course, you know, I seen something that I hadn't seen before.
The glyphs that Penniston mentions are symbols that were etched into the side of the craft. Penniston sketched these symbols in a notebook, but their meaning is a mystery. As Penniston and his team approached the craft, they began feeling unusual sensations.
The immediate area around the craft, we noticed physical changes. We noticed that the sound was different. For example, the lack of sound around it was like a deadening sound. We were hearing animals before we got within like 10 feet. And then once we got within this area right around the craft, it went silent. Then we started feeling static electricity on our skin, in our hair, and our clothes. One of the unusual effects is that once we entered this immediate area around the craft, it felt like everything went in slow motion. It felt like there was a dragging of time. We did have, discrepancies on our watches after we left the area of 45 minutes. And what appeared to be us just examining the craft for 5 or 10 minutes actually was over a couple hours out there. So we did lose track of some time. We do know that we did have adrenaline going. We do understand that that can affect, the way things are perceived. But it was just too much. 2 hours is a long time to write off for adrenaline.
Penniston knew that he had to be careful when reporting this incident.
In my report, the term craft of unknown origin, I was not going to, in any way, shape, or form, use the term UFO in there. I used a military term. I couldn't determine the origin, and I let somebody else figure that out. I figured, okay, my job is to gather the facts, which I did. And it's above my pay grade, let somebody else figure out what it was. And so that's pretty much how I was looking at it. Also, we had a very real fear of our careers, because we know that this is something that would hurt our careers, reporting this type of phenomenon. It just wasn't done.
Penniston does have a theory as to why the craft was there that night.
A feeling I've had why that night, and in retrospect, looking back at it, the feeling I had is that it was in trouble. It wasn't supposed to be there. And the other odd thing is that why would it land? Why would it be on the ground that long? Why would it allow it to be examined unless it had to, unless it was repairing itself? And that's a feeling I had then, and I still have with it today. Yeah, what kind of technology repairs itself?
During his encounter, Penniston describes experiencing confusion, fear, astonishment, and awe. If extraterrestrial intelligence were to reveal itself to human beings, would humanity experience the same emotions?
I think I agree with the human race would probably experience the same type of feelings I had. But I think one of the things that I hadn't mentioned is probably denial. Is one of also the feelings you feel. Well, this can't be what I think it could be. I think that's part of what's going on there, and because we're rational people, we want rational answers, especially in that position I was in. I mean, what we have in that base, in those twin bases, largest tactical fighter wing in the United States Air Force.
Penniston has written that the feelings he had during this encounter were unlike any he had ever had before. He describes an unexpected additional emotional state that he experienced.
It felt sort of complete. It felt like it was okay. And then when it took off, there was an absence of that feeling.
After about 45 minutes, the colors on the craft became more agitated as they once again became an intense white color.
And then it started getting brighter and brighter, and now we're squinting, and all I could see is a white light. But it was still not as bad as when we first came up to the craft, because this still could take off and go up to about, treetop level, and then, and I could still see the silhouette of the, triangular craft. But when I initially approached it, it was just too bright.
Description of what was going on was larger white light glowing. Approximately 10-15 meters from it, it was quite distinguishable. It was triangular in shape. It was not an aircraft, but it was a craft of some sort. Certain things didn't make sense. I couldn't determine the front. That was the problem. Second, it seemed running, but no sound. Third was the aspect of having electricity in the air. I could feel it in my clothing, my hair, my skin. The next one is after I got up close to the craft. The writing changes. It changes from being written confidently to shaky. Gotta stop there. Sorry. I need a little time. Okay. Wow. Anything I could see, I would go ahead and write down. Structure of craft. Fabric. Black. Smooth. Glass-like. Surface unknown. Identity unknown. I paced off the size of the craft, taking notes on the distance. Size, 9 feet long. Approximately 7 to 8 feet high. I couldn't tell what was the front or the back. I had trouble when I was walking around the craft to distinguish engines. Propulsion, unknown. No sound. but apparently operating somehow. Type of aircraft unknown. I made extra effort to look for the crew compartment or windows or anything like that, or access ports. Could not see any. There was no handles or anything like that. The craft was completely smooth on the outside. Skin fabric of craft, warm. Probably the most startling part of it was the fabric of the craft. Aircraft are metal, and this was maybe metal, but it was very smooth. The fabric seemed like black glass. High electric static on clothes, skin, hair. Identifying markings on left front. That is probably the most compelling thing that said, well, my God, this is from someplace else. Symbols etched or engraved, question mark. Symbols recorded. All I know is I was out there that first night. I know I completed one of the best investigations of my entire military career. This thing wasn't lights in the sky. This was the object, a craft that had landed. I examined it. I walked around it. I felt it. This is an actual event that happened. It doesn't matter what they say. I was there. They weren't. Liftoff, 2:45. No sound. No exhaust. Takeoff unknown. Speed impossible. The takeoff was probably the most amazing thing I've ever seen. With absolutely no sound. It just lifted up maybe 2 or 3 feet, and it did a little bit of maneuvering back in the trees. Momentarily hovered, then in a blink of an eye, it left. Literally a blink of an eye.